family here to speak briefly about her. And my relationship with her goes all the way back to babyhood because our parents were all members of Grace Baptist in Nanuet together. But she's 5 years younger than I am, so she was. And so she was in the nursery when I was in the kindergarten class. But then from the time that she was out of high school and I was home from college, we got to be good friends, singing in the youth choir together, trying to help the high school kids, going on trips with them, with my husband, who wasn't my husband yet at the time, and going forward from then all the way up until the time that she moved from Rockland down to Lancaster. We sang together, both in the Hanson Ensemble here in ICF, and before that in the choir at Grace Baptist. And so we've been friends for many, many, many years. She was my really closest friend here in Rockland. And we also had in common that we loved outdoors things, and so we used to go hiking and camping, and she also went on a number of our wilderness canoe trips that my husband used to like to lead up in northwestern Quebec. So we enjoyed a lot of, in the year that I couldn't go wilderness camping because I was pregnant with my daughter, my first child, we took a trip out west, Carol and another single guy who sang in the bass in our choir, and my dog and my husband, and I all went to Yellowstone and drove around that western area, and we really enjoyed our time with Carol there. But I'm not obviously the only friend that Carol had here, and she made a lot of friends at St. Dominic's home, where she used to work. She was in payroll there, and you know Karen Van Dyke, who's been here coming to ICF, was working with Carol in payroll, and then when she moved to a different department, they still were really close friends. And it was Carol, after she moved, who prayed with Karen because Karen was going through a difficult time. And Karen said despite Carol's cancer, Carol still kept in touch with her every single day to see how Karen was doing. So she was a very close friend to Karen and also to many others at St. Dominic's. So the thing that, some of the characteristics of Carol that I remember that I wrote up in the little bulletin that Rolly so kindly put together here, her energy. She had boundless energy, and she would, in whatever she was doing, whether she was at work, she would just work 110% all the time she was at work. And when she was working at the church, she gave her total self to the job that she was doing, whether it was, she was our church treasurer over there at Grace Baptist for a number of years. She conducted the junior choir, but in so doing, she planned these musicals twice a year, Christmas time and in the spring. They would do a musical play, and she would rehearse with the kids, and you know how it is working with children and trying to get them to learn stuff. But she had ultimate patience when she was doing that, and the kids all remember her with great appreciation. In fact, I was talking to my son yesterday, who grew up under Carol's junior choir leadership, and he said, I really should come down for that service, even though he's a father and of a very busy working dad. But he said, she was such an important part of my growing up years. She really was. And Joshua and Shauna, who are here representing all the youth group that couldn't be here, they can share that. Also at St. Dominic's, she would walk. She would walk, actually, before she went to work in the morning, like at 3 in the morning at the Palisades Mall. She walked all the floors and walked and walked and walked. Then she went to work at 7:30, worked, and then at lunchtime she would have another walk, and whoever was up for it would walk with her. And sometimes, I guess, Karen you'd bear me out, that there would be half a dozen, and sometimes there would be just Carol and maybe one other person because it was raining or snowing or cold or hot, but Carol would go regardless. She just was a walking fanatic, and she was just always busy at whatever she was doing. And then in addition to this energy she also had a great servant heart. So she wanted, when she was serving the Lord, she served with her entire energy and business and ability, and she was gifted in many different areas, not just in music. But I can still remember she was the music librarian for my husband to keep all the, umpteen sheets of music that were all scattered all over the place. She would keep them together, keep them filed. And when something was torn or it needed to be assembled, she had the most dexterity of anybody I ever met. She could just go like this and sort it all out in a minute where it would take me 10 minutes to do the same thing. And she would just, like I said, she just worked completely, thoroughly, 100%. In addition to the youth group that she did and the church treasurer, she was also a Sunday school teacher. And Carol was faithful. As I said, some of these tasks that she took on for herself were tiring and a little discouraging sometimes, to try to corral 20 elementary age kids to make them do something together and sound good at it. But she kept working at it. She never said, "Oh, I can't do this anymore, I quit." That was not Carol. She was very, very faithful. And sometimes things got hard at work too, but she kept at it until she counted down the days until she was 66 and could retire. And that's when she had already prearranged the retirement home in Lancaster. And she finally moved there when they got the chance to sell their house that summer in Muncie. And the other thing, besides her being so faithful, she was also full of faith. And as the songs that we've been singing, and at the time when she was first given her first diagnosis of cancer, it coincided almost with the death of her parents in a car accident very suddenly. And because of the nature of the car accident, there was a lawsuit involved, and she and her brother had to mortgage the house. And she said at that time, "I never could have gotten through all that without the Lord being with me." And she said that many times after things got harder for her with her cancer diagnosis. And at the very end, we know her to have said, "I'm ready to go. I know where I'm going, and I'm prepared," because the hope of heaven was just so present with her from the time when she first got sick, but all the way up until the end. She just knew she was ready.
Thank you, Liz. This time we're going to honor the Lord through our tithes and offerings. The choir will come up and sing one of the songs that is true in the life of Carol. And we're going to sing a song entitled "Go Light to the World." She indeed led her world. And as we give our tithes and offerings, the choir will Thank you, Lord God, that today we're able to honor you through our tithes and offerings. And may you continue to bless our families, our jobs, and each one of us as we surrender our lives to you and serve you. We pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Please remain standing. I'm sorry to. We're going to sing a hymn, one of Carol's favorite hymns. It's if you open your hymn books, it's actually on 520, not 521. But I don't know if you have the screen ready for the hymn. We're going to sing a hymn called "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus," because that's exactly what Carol has been telling everyone who asks her every time, why are you still smiling when you had cancer? And she said, because I'm trusting in my Lord and I have my Lord Jesus in my heart. That's why she can smile. So let's sing this hymn, "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus."